Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Katie Romano Griffin. My pronouns are she, her, and I want to thank you for joining us today for our second annual poetry service. If you're new with us this morning, please do let us know in the chat. Whether you're joining us today for the first time or you've been with us for a lifetime, we welcome you here. Whoever you are, whomever you love, you are welcome here. Wherever you're joining us from, however you arrived at our worship together, you are welcome here. Whatever your beliefs, gender identity and expression, immigration status, or political views, you are welcome here. Thank you for taking a chance and taking the time to worship with us today. And know that if you've been attending for a while and are interested in being a member of Cedar Lane, please do reach out to Nicole Causey, our membership coordinator. Details will be in the chat. Our pastoral visitors are an extension of the ministry team. Know that they are available in the chat today to support you. If you feel called to do so, please consider clicking the like button just below me. If you also can click the subscribe little bell and subscribe to our YouTube channel, we would appreciate it. Thank you. As we enter this worship experience of reflection and remembrance of joys and sorrows, of generosity and compassion, let us also be mindful of the land where our beloved church is situated. Let us be mindful of the Piscataway, Nacotchtank, and Anacostia, who've walked these lands for thousands of years and more. Let us remember those who were enslaved and worked this land without choice or reward. Let us remember all who've gone before, whose vision and labor helped create and sustain this religious community. It is in this spirit we gather. In this spirit we begin. Let us greet and welcome each other in the chat.
Karácsonya. Nem a félelemnek, rettegésnek, hitetlenségnek, hanem az Isten akaratának ünnepe. Az angyal pedig ezt mondta nékik: ne féljetek, mert íme hirdetek néktek nagy örömet, mely az egész nép öröme lesz. Üdvözítő született ma nektek, aki az Úr Krisztus a Dávid városában. Nagy tiszteletű Cedar Lane-i lelkészek, valamint mélyen tisztelt gyülekezeti tagok. A semmihez sem hasonlítható világszerte elterjedt járvány miatt a mögünk hagyott esztendő napjainak nagy részét izgalommal, félelemmel, bizalmatlansággal töltöttük. De bennünk, a hívő keresztényekben ott volt és ott van a remény, az Istenbe vetett hit, mely naponta erőt adott. Ez a remény és hit vezetett bennünket az adventben is, hogy karácsony áldott ünnepéhez elérkezzünk. Külső, fizikai, valamint belső lelki életünk minden napjában ott volt az a tudat, hogy mindnyájan Isten kezében vagyunk, és ott vagyunk a legjobban. Minden az ő akarata által válik teljessé. A nehézségekben sokszor imádkoztunk a Jézus szavaival: legyen meg a te akaratod. És kaptunk erőt, egészséget, kitartást, és sokszor jókedvet, hogy az élet megnyugtatóbb, igaz és biztonságos legyen. Karácsony ünnepén az adott lehetőségeknek megfelelően a törvények és rendelkezések maradéktalan betartása által itt vagyunk a templomban. Átélve a karácsony hangulatát, Jézus születésének eseményeit mi magunk is. A csillagra tekintünk, az angyali kórussal énekelünk, a pásztorokkal együtt aranyat, tömjént, mirhát, ajándékozunk, és még azt, amink van. A Heródes gonosz szándékát elkerülve egy másik úton térünk vissza, mindannyian otthonainkba. Istenben bízó lélekkel, Jézus tanítása által nyert üdvösséggel kívánunk áldott karácsonyt és boldog új évet. Tisztelettel és testvéri szeretettel Dicső Szent Márton gyülekezete és lelkésze, Szent Györgyi Sándor.
Christmas 2020 is not a celebration of fear, dread, and faith, but of God's will. And the angel said unto them, Be not afraid, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all the people. For there is born to you this day in the city of David the Savior, who is Christ the Lord. Reverend ministers from Cedar Lane and deeply respected church members. Because of the unparalleled worldwide epidemic, we spend most of the days that are left with tension, fear, and mistrust. But in us Christians, there was and there is hope. Faith in God that gave us strength every day. This hope and faith led us in Advent to come to the celebration of the Holy Christmas. Every day of our physical and spiritual life, there is the awareness that we are all in God's hands, and that is the best place to be. Everything is fulfilled by His will. In difficult times, we have prayed many times with the words of Jesus, Thy will be done. And we have got strength, health, and perseverance. Many times, happiness to make life more reassuring, true, and safe. On Christmas Day, we are here in the church in accordance with the given possibilities, taking into considerations the laws and regulations, experiencing the atmosphere of Christmas, the events of the birth of Jesus. We look at the star, we sing with the angelic choir, with the shepherds we give gold, frankincense, myrrh, and whatever we have, we share it as a gift. Avoided the evil intent of Herod, we return on another path to our homes. With faith in God, salvation gained to the teaching of Jesus, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We respect and brotherly love the congregation and minister of Dicső Szent Márton, Szent Györgyi Sándor.
Good morning. My name is Babs, and my pronouns are they, them. If you have a chalice at home, you are invited to light yours now. Let us know in the chat where you are by sharing in the chat. This chalice is lit in your neighborhood, town, state, or wherever you are in this world. I am lighting my chalice in Bethesda. We summon ourselves from the demands and the delights of our daily round, from the dirty dishes and unwaxed floors, from unmowed grass and untrimmed bushes, from the incompleteness and not yet startedness, from the unholy and the unresolved. We summon the power of tradition and the exhilaration of newness, the wisdom of the ages and the knowing of the very young. We summon beauty, eloquence, poetry, and music to be the bearers of our dreams. We would open our eyes or ears or minds or hearts to the amplest dimensions of life. We rejoice in the manifold promises and possibilities.
My name is Theo.
And my name is Melanie. And our theme this month is stillness. Let's look inside of our wonder box to see what reminds us of stillness.
A pillow.
A pillow reminds us of stillness because in order to rest one's body, one must first rest your mind. When you lay your head on your pillow each night, you have the chance to let go of the day's events. Once you achieve the stillness to sleep, you have truly relaxed your mind, your body, and your spirit.
When I was young, my mom used to read me poetry from Shel Silverstein, and this is one of my favorites. Invitation. If you are a dreamer, come in. If you are a dreamer, a wisher, a liar, a hoper, a prayer, a magic bean buyer. If you are a pretender, come sit by my fire, for we have some flax golden tales to spin. Come in, come in.
God sent us salvation, that that blessed Christmas morn. Go tell it now, go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain, and that Jesus Christ is born. Go tell it now, go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain, that Jesus Christ is born. Go tell it now, go tell it on the mountain, go tell it on the mountain, that Jesus Christ is born, is born. Go tell it on the mountain, that Jesus Christ is born. Go tell it on the mountain.
May Sarton's New Year's Eve greeting of 1937. The earth feels old tonight, and we who live and stand on the cold rim face a new year. It is raining everywhere, as if the rain were mercy, as if the rain were peace, peace falling on our hair. Open your hearts tonight. Let them light away in the dark. Let them one by one affirm that there is hope for a staff. I say it will flower in our hands. We shall go garlanded. There is the fine, fresh stuff of faith for a coat. We shall go warm. We shall go on by the light in our hearts, and we shall burn brightly in the new year. We shall go on together. O you who stand alone on the rim of the earth and are cold, I salute you.
The name of this poem is God Says Yes to Me, and it's by Kaylin Haught. I asked God if it was okay to be melodramatic, and she said yes. I asked her if it was okay to be short, and she said, sure it is. I asked her if I could wear nail polish or not wear nail polish, and she said, honey, she calls me that sometimes. She said, you can do just exactly what you want to. Thanks, God, I said. And is it even okay if I don't paragraph my letters? Sweet cakes, God said. Who knows where she picked that up? What I'm telling you is yes, yes, yes.
This poem is called There Are Birds Here by Jamal May. For Detroit. There are birds here. So many birds here is what I was trying to say when you said those birds were metaphors for what is trapped between buildings and buildings. No, there are birds here to root around for bread and girls' hands tear and toss like confetti. No, I don't mean the bread is torn like cotton. I said confetti. And no, not the confetti a tank can make of a building. I mean the confetti a boy can't stop smiling about. And no, his smile isn't much like a skeleton at all. And no, his neighborhood is not like a war zone. I'm trying to say his neighborhood is tattered and feathered as anything else. As shadows pierced by sun and light parted by shadow dance as anything else, but they won't stop saying, how lovely the ruins, how ruined the lovely. Children must be in that birdless city.
Where the Mind is Without Fear by Rabindranath Tagore. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms toward perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my God, let my country awake.
Ubuntu, now my favorite word. First encountered reading Alan Paton prior to visiting Africa, caught my attention immediately. Ubuntu is a way of life. Centuries old in sub-Saharan Africa, I queried our driver from Johannesburg. Calm, educated, excellent guide. Yes, yes, he said in a gentle tone, we teach our children Ubuntu. Ubuntu is an ethos often described as I am because we are, a profound understanding. One is only human through being in relationship with other humans. YouTube full of Ubuntu videos. Most miss the point. Basketball teams practice Ubuntu to win. Female entrepreneur thrives to make money. Lecturer tells how to be powerful, how to get what you want. But it's not about power. It's the opposite, about sharing and caring, about selflessness, about living in harmony with creation. Ubuntu everywhere. Make the world a better place. Empathy, compassion, trust abound. People live in community, not in conflict. Let us raise the banner of Ubuntu. Cease effort to dominate. War not necessary. Peace surrounds, needs met. We know what matters. This poem was shared with me by Alexander Shaw, who is also the author.
Come, thou fount of every blessing, tune our hearts to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. While the hope of life's perfection fills our hearts with joy and love, teach us ever to be faithful. May we still thy goodness prove. Come, thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of mournful silent, feel our love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Come, thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways. Lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day. Help us bind ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love. With thine aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above.
Each Sunday, we give and receive an offering to sustain the ministry and mission of our religious community. This year has certainly been like no other in recent history. Together, we began the year in a place that feels too far away, and will end this year with each of us feeling the effects of a pandemic that has taken an overwhelming number of lives in our religious community and beyond. We are mourning so many losses. At the same time, we celebrate what we have found, and what is possible. We celebrate the creativity, the strength, and the resilience of our spirits that has helped us come through this year. In this year of COVID, we have worshiped together every Sunday, built community from our homes, we have engaged in social justice, we have promoted democracy, we have marched in the streets and supported those in need within and beyond our community. We pivoted to offering all virtual worship starting in March without missing a Sunday. We've raised more than $30,000 from our Share the Plate collections this year for social justice and community organizations. We've made pastoral calls and visits to every member and friend of Cedar Lane. We have offered new ways for families to find connection and community. And we have reimagined beloved traditions like Holiday Craft Day, like the Silent Night ritual of candle lighting that we had at our Christmas Eve services, flower communion and water communion, to provide meaningful and joyful ways for people to come together. For us, Cedar Lane is a continued source of grounding, strength, hope, and our deep connections to one another. From our most senior members to our littlest children, from our dedicated staff to our many visitors. In this season of giving and gratitude, we have so much to be grateful for, and we are grateful for you. Thank you for your generous support and commitment to Cedar Lane. You are the reason we have been able to continue to be who we are and do what we do. So as we enter the last few days of this year, please consider making a special one-time year-end gift to the church by December 31st. Your financial support will help us start the new year steadfast and strong. You may text to donate or give via PayPal or give online or send a check to the church. Thank you for your generosity and commitment. Our offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Encourage my soul and let us journey on. Though the night is dark and I am far from home, thanks be to God, the morning light appears. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah.
Each time we gather for worship, we set aside time to expand the caring ministry of this congregation. Together, we recognize the cycle of life and death, the circle of love, compassion, and witness that is at the heart of this religious community. Our hearts are with those whose primary spiritual practice is parenting. We hold in our circle of caring those who live with grief or chronic pain, with illnesses seen and unseen, with mental illness or addictions, those who care for family members in ill health, and those who are experiencing job loss or financial insecurity. Within our Cedar Lane community, we offer our heartiest congratulations to Mike and Mary Morse on the birth of their fourth grandchild. Lauren and Travis Hill and big brother Wesley welcomed Whitney into this world on December 17th. Congratulations. We hold in our hearts Rich Madalino, Mark Hodge, Katie, and Jackson as they mourn the passing of Rich's father, Rich Madalino Sr., on Saturday, December 12th of complications from COVID-19. He was 78. Richard was known for his storytelling, his sales and marketing career, his love of Washington sports teams, and his fierce love and support for his son, Rich. We send healing wishes to Jean Anderson, who tested positive for COVID-19 and is recovering at Oak Manor in Burtonsville. Our caring extends beyond Cedar Lane to those whose lives are lost and have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and by calamities and violence in the world. Would you join me now in the spirit of prayer, reflection, and meditation with these words adapted from the Reverend Mark Stringer. Nameless one of many names, Spirit of life and love, you make your presence known to us in the sunshine of winter, in the dance of the flame, in the lingering embrace of a loved one. Fill us, O Spirit, with your warmth, your power, and your strength. As this difficult and challenging year winds down to its close, and we are submerged once again in the seasonal darkness we have come to know so well, we have reason to think back upon the year that was, if only because it will soon be gone. We think back to the friends we have made, the sorrows we have endured, the love we have found, and the loneliness we have survived. We think back to the blessings of being forgiven and the gift we offered to ourselves when we forgave. We think back to those who listened to us in our times of need and the times we could have listened more. We think back to the things we traded for our time and to what we may have overlooked in the process. We think back to the times when we were afraid and uncertain and we trudged ahead anyway, and the times when we were compassionate when we could have been cold. In this season of still growing night, may we see ourselves with a freshness born of the Spirit. May we see more clearly against the backdrop of our living the true light of our lives, the love we give to others, and the peace we nurture in ourselves. Seize us, O Spirit, with the miracles of life itself, that we might be filled with a new vision, with a new passion, a new resolve, heeding your quiet call to take the next step. In the name of all that is holy and life-affirming and life-sustaining, we say, Shalom, Salam, Om Shanti, Amen. Blessed be. Let us now be in silence together each adding our own silent prayers and meditations as our hearts lead us. And as we enter the silence, those who are mourning a loss or marking the anniversary of a loss are invited to rise and or share the name of the loved one in the chat.
This is a poem by Sapphire Rose. It's called She Let Go. She let go. She let go. Without a thought or a word, she let go. She let go of the fear. She let go of the judgments. She let go of the confluence of opinions swarming around her head. She let go of the committee of indecision within her. She let go of all the right reasons. Wholly and completely, without hesitation or worry, she just let go. She didn't ask anyone for advice. She didn't read a book on how to let go. She didn't search the scriptures. She just let go. She let go of all the memories that held her back. She let go of all the anxiety that kept her from moving forward. She let go of the planning and all the calculations about how to do it just right. She didn't promise to let go. She didn't journal about it. She didn't write the projected date in her day timer. She made no public announcement, put no ad in the paper. She didn't check the weather report or read her daily horoscope. She just let go. She didn't analyze whether she should let go. She didn't call her friends to discuss the matter. She didn't do a 5-step spiritual mind treatment. She didn't call the prayer line. She didn't utter one word. She just let go. No one was around when it happened. There was no applause or congratulations. No one thanked her or praised her. No one noticed a thing. Like a leaf falling from a tree, she just let go. There was no effort. There was no struggle. It wasn't good and it wasn't bad. It was what it was, and it is just that. In the space of letting go, she let it all be. A small smile came over her face, a light breeze blew through her, and the sun and the moon shone forevermore.
Praise the Mutilated World is a poem by Adam Zakajewski that we learned in a small group ministry at Cedar Lane. It seems particularly appropriate during this time. Try to praise the mutilated world. Remember June's long days and wild strawberries and drops of rosé wine. The nettles that methodically overgrow the abandoned homesteads of exiles. You must praise the mutilated world. You watch the stylish yachts and ships. One of them had a long trip ahead of it, while salty oblivion awaited others. You've seen the refugees going nowhere. You've heard the executioners sing joyfully. You should praise the mutilated world. Remember the moments when we were together in a white room and the curtain fluttered. Return in thought to the concert where music flared. You gathered acorns in the park in autumn and leaves eddied over the earth's scars. Praise the mutilated world, and the gray feather a thrush lost, and the gentle light that strays and vanishes and returns.
Having Come This Far by James Broughton. I've been through what my through was to be. I did what I could and couldn't. I was never sure how I would get there. I nourished an order for thresholds, for stepping stones, and for ladders. I discovered detour and ditch. I swam in the high tides of greed. I built sandcastles to house my dreams. I survived the sunburns of love. No longer do I hunt for targets. I've climbed all the summits I need to, and I've eaten my share of lotus. Now I give praise and thanks for what could not be avoided, and for every foolhardy choice I cherish my wounds and their cures, and the sweet enervations of bliss. My book is an open life. I wave goodbye to the absolutes and send my regards to infinity. I'd rather be blithe than correct. Until something transcendent turns up, I splash in my poetry puddle and try to keep God amused.
Hi, this poem is Untitled by Tyler Knott Gregson from the Chasers of Light series. I love you in ways you've never been loved, for reasons you've never been told, for longer than you think you deserved, and with more than you will ever know existed inside of me.
People Stayed Home by Kitty O'Meara. And people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played and learned new ways of being and stopped and listened deeper. Someone meditated, someone prayed, someone danced, someone met their shadow, and people began to think differently, and people healed. And in the absence of people who lived in ignorant ways, dangerous, meaningless, and heartless, even the earth began to heal. And when the danger ended and people found each other, grieved for the dead people, they made new choices and dreamed of new visions and created new ways of life and healed the earth completely, just as they were healed themselves.
Stillness is. Stillness is calming music and coffee in the morning. The world around you when walking dogs at sunrise. Walking alone in the woods on a clear fall day, with a gentle wind, a rustling of leaves, the only sound for miles. A closed computer and an open coloring book, bearing witness to the slow rising and falling of a pet's stomach as they sleep. Stillness is a snowy day, taking time to watch the snow slowly falling down. Everything feels calm, no rushing, noise down a few notches, watching the snow slowly falling down. Watching. A soft snow falls so quiet, tiny flakes like crystals, reflecting the moonlight and settling on the grass in the evening, being cozy by a fire when it's cold outside. Stillness is quiet thoughts expressed in smiles, a touch, or a fragrance. The quiet in which we can hear and feel what is always there. Connection with each other, the earth, the cosmos, the feeling of being present for another. Stillness is healing, breathing in and breathing out. My favorite line from my second favorite musical, Rent, is this: the opposite of war isn't peace, it's creation. And if the opposite of war is creation, then one could easily reason that creation is an act of resistance against violence and war. Creation is an act of healing We did this, beloveds. We resisted the malaise and violence of our times through creating poetry together. This is our collective poem. We healed a tiny piece of our hearts with the simple act of taking a moment to notice, to reflect, and then to write it down. And because I believe that poetry is always better the second time around, I will read it again, and I invite you to listen for the words that feel healing to you. Stillness is. Stillness is calming music and coffee in the morning. The world around you when walking dogs at sunrise. Walking alone in the woods on a clear fall day with a gentle wind rustling the leaves, the only sound for miles. A closed computer and an open coloring book. Bearing witness to the slow rising and falling of a pet's stomach as they sleep. Stillness is a snowy day, taking time to watch the snow slowly falling down. Everything feels calm, no rushing, noise down a few notches, watching the snow slowly falling down, watching a soft snow fall, so quiet. Tiny snowflakes like crystals reflected in the moonlight and settled on the grass in the evening. Being cozy by a fire when it's cold outside. Stillness is quiet thoughts expressed in smiles, a touch, or a fragrance. The quiet in which we can hear and feel what is always there. Connection with each other, the earth, the cosmos, the feeling of being present for another. Stillness is healing. Breathing in and breathing out. Our collective poem captures so much of what makes poetry liberatory, an act of liberation. Audre Lorde expresses it this way in her essay, "Poetry is not a luxury." For women, or those acculturated as women, then poetry is not a luxury. It is a vital necessity of our existence. It forms the quality of the light within, which we predicate our hopes and dreams towards survival and change, first made into language, then into ideas, then into more tangible action. Poetry is the way we help give name to the nameless so it can be thought. The farthest external horizons of our hopes and fears are cobbled into our poems, carved from the rock experiences of our daily lives. Poetry carved from the rock experiences of our daily lives. That is what we captured together. Snow falling, pets breathing, smiles, a touch, a fragrance, the sacred healing found in our own breath. These are connections to a deep and ancient wisdom that has been waiting within each of us to be made into language. Poetry is not a luxury. It connects us to the experiences of daily lives that may be unfamiliar to us and makes them familiar. It gives us a window into the breadth of experiences of being human. And in doing so, surprises us and evokes emotion. So maybe you have an uncle with a favorite catchphrase or opinions on water drinking. Or maybe your heart has known the tragedy of someone gone too soon, or the longing to remember a loved one by retracing their habits. This poem may speak to you. This poem by Naomi Shihab Nye. My uncle's favorite coffee shop. Serum of steam rising from the cup. What comfort to be personally known by Barbara. Her perfect pouring hand and starched ascot, known as the 2 easy eggs and single pancake without saying. What a pleasure for an immigrant. Anything without saying. My uncle slid into his booth. I cannot tell you how I love this place. He drained the water glass, noisily clinking the ice. My uncle hailed from an iceless region. He had definite ideas about water drinking. I cannot tell you all the time, but then he'd try. My uncle wore a white shirt every day of his life. He raised his hand against the roaring of the ocean and the television full of lies. He shook his head back and forth from one country to the other, and his ticket grew longer. Immigrants had double and nothing all at once. Immigrants drove the taxis, sold the beer and the cokes. When he found one note that rang true, he sang it over and over inside. Coffee, honey? His eyes roamed the couples at the other booths, their loose banter and casual clothes, but he never became them. Uncle, who finally left in a bravado moment after 23 years, to live in the old country forever, to stay and never come back. Maybe it would be peaceful now, maybe for 1 minute. I cannot tell you how my heart has settled at last. But he followed us to the sidewalk saying, take care, as if he couldn't stand to leave us. I cannot tell how he felt to learn the week he arrived, he died. Or how it is now, driving his parched streets, feeling the booth beneath us as we order. Oh, anything. Because if we don't, it will not come. Poetry is not a luxury. It is a way of truth-telling. Truth-telling that paints a picture with words so detailed and stunning you can't help but listen. You can't help but be moved to action. Like this poem by Adrienne Rich, a poem that knows its purpose and shares it with you. What kind of times are these? There's a place between 2 stands of trees where the grass grows uphill and the old revolutionary road breaks off into shadows near a meeting house abandoned by the persecuted who disappeared into the shadows. I've walked there picking mushrooms at the edge of dread, but don't be fooled. This is not a Russian poem. This is not somewhere else, but here. Our country, moving closer to its own truth and dread, its own way of making people disappear. I won't tell you where this place is, the dark mesh of the woods, meeting the unmarked strip of light, ghost-ridden crossroads, leaf mold paradise. I know already who wants to buy it, sell it, make it disappear. And I won't tell you where it is. So why do I tell you anything? Because you still listen. Because in times like these, to have you listen at all, it is necessary to talk about trees. Poetry is not a luxury, and poetry is not out there. It is in here. It is in the truth lying dormant within each of us, waiting to be set free. As Audre Lorde writes, within these deep places, each one of us holds an incredible reserve of creativity and power, of unexamined and unrecorded emotion and feeling. Poetry is not a luxury. It is your birthright to put pen to paper, or your fingers to the keyboard, or your voice to a mic. It doesn't have to be published. It doesn't even have to be good. It is, however, necessary. It is an act of resistance. It is an act of healing. It is an act of love.
Thank you to our worship team, Reverend Abi Janamanshi, Dayna Edwards, Fab Ricketts, our worship associate. Thank you to everyone who shared a poem for this service. Thank you to our musicians, the youth choir, Dr. Jasmine Lee, our children's choir. Thank you, Rachel Moore, Jenny Lynn Moyer, Dr. Henry Segreezy, Kevin Miller, Travis Plager, and the Cedar Lane Virtual Choir, who are not all always in service, but are always working on music for future services. Thank you for all that you do and the ways in which you share your gifts and make beautiful music. Thank you to our incredibly dedicated AV team, Michael McCrickard, Mike Morse, Don Woodruff, Barb Thompson, and Todd Chernikoff, and Rebecca Knocktree for making the beautiful slides we see each Sunday. Thank you to our membership, staff, and volunteers, as well as our pastoral volunteers who've been active and supportive in the chat today. Thank you, friends, fans, and members of Cedar Lane. Please, I hope you'll join us with your favorite beverage for a virtual coffee hour after the postlude. And I hope that you'll join us next Sunday at 11 a.m. for a service that's all about letting go and letting something new in. We'll be using our imaginations as we open our hearts, open our minds, release that sigh, that tension we've been holding from 2020, and make room for 2021. I hope to see you.
And because I still find something so special about reading from a collection of poetry out of a book, I would like to leave you with this final reading from To Wake, to Rise, edited by Reverend Bill Sinkford. And this poem is by Anne Barker. When the unimaginable happened. When we heard the news, saw the wreckage, felt the paralyzing blow, our hearts broke open and spilled out into our hands. And there we were, watching our love seep between our fingers, watching our fragile love pour out all over us, watching our love seem to slip away. When the unimaginable happened, the ache that we felt as if love was being lost was the ache of love's despairing truth. This is the love that no one chooses, the loss so out of order, so profound, the love we did not ever want to know. And yet, the source of this despair, the reason our hearts cleave and flow is because they know fullness. This is the love of truth and beauty, love that spans the web of being, uniting each of us within its timeless form. When we heard the news, our hearts broke open, spilled out into our hands, and there we were at love, lamenting, what am I to do with this? And with these raw and tender yearnings, we will beat after precious beat, seek wholeness once again. It will take time to find our balance, to grieve if we make room. Remember, friends, this is the right thing. This ache within our deepest beings. We know that all these things are normal, to feel disrupted, to feel empty or undone. Our hearts broke open, and the love that is still true draws us once again together, story by story, step by step, into places of tender knowing, remembering to restore us, mend us, piece by broken piece. This is the love that runs between us, sustaining force of restoration, the love that nourishes and feeds us, binds each to our collective core. We grieve and march and weep and sing through the pain, but not despite it. Love will repair us, not the same, but stronger in some places. Honoring memories like treasures, living out our lives' potential in the shadow of the trespass, in the warmth of one another, in the light of what restored will become. Amen.